Hi, I'm Patton Oswalt, and despite all of the PSAs during the 70s and 80s and all of the after-school specials warning me against it, I've decided to be alone with Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hey guys, welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. I am Jake Hogan, and you are... Yes, you are. Great to see you, or hear you, or be in the same car, or walk with you. Bike ride? What are we doing right now? We're on a treadmill. Oh, good. We're keeping up with our health. Thanks for being here, and thank you very much for being a fan of Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, and thank you for telling your friends about how cool this show is, and thank you for subscribing to this show, because that's awesome of you, and thank you for your patronage and your interest and excitement, and all the emails that come in are great. Please send more at DBAWJK@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. I want to respond to you. I want to have a connection with you. I also need your listener questions for future guests. I'm running out, guys. Send me your questions. You don't think they're important? I think they're very important. So please send me your questions. Today we have a spectacular show for you. I cannot tell you how spectacular it is. This guy, I've been trying to get on the show since day one of this show, and he's finally here. Really, really talented writer, a really, really talented comedian, a really, really talented actor, and a smart know-it-all when it comes to anything nerd-related. Patton Oswalt is here. Patton is one of the greatest stand-up comics of our generation. He is funny beyond funny. He's also turned into a great actor. I don't know if you've seen YA, but he's brilliant in that movie and brilliant in many other movies. He wrote the screenplay to Ratatouille. Endless amounts of writing and working on comic books and working on short stories, and he's just a creative. He's the Leonardo da Vinci of nerd comics. And I don't know. And if Leonardo tried to be a nerd comic, he couldn't do it. I'm telling you, it's not possible. I'm very excited to have this conversation, and I'm very excited for you to hear this conversation, and I'm very excited for you to write me back and tell me what you thought of the conversation. So here it is, Jake Hogan and Patton Oswalt shooting the shit.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a torturous road to get you into this seat.
It has been, look, I say this to any podcast that asks me on, I will always try to do your episode, but my schedule is such that and also there's a lot of, with my schedule, there's a lot of 2 days before, oh my God, they changed the shooting schedule on me. I have to, so I'm always very open about that.
Not offended at all that it takes somebody who actually has a life some time to figure out how to get here. But I do appreciate you being here is really the thing that I'm saying. So thank you for being here. And I wanted to say that I've never probably been able to say this to you in person before because we've had conversations, but it's not the forum to say I'm a big fan of yours. So
oh my God.
I can say that now here because I'm a big fan. I listen to all your comedy, all your records. I've seen all your specials, and I enjoy it. Even when I feel like I've eaten too much and I go, "Buh," I think of you. I think of all the things that you've said. Very, very clever, very funny, and very sharp, and I'm just a big fan of yours. So thank you for being here. It means a lot to me.
That's what I want my admirers to do, is reach a point where they go, no more Oswalt.
That would be
I had too much Oswalt.
If when you walked on stage, people just went "buh" instead of applauding. It was their version of Bruce saying Bruce. Buh.
Oh, what was Tom Petty was talking about? He opened for Bruce Springsteen one time, and the tour manager said, "Now listen, when you walk out, they're all it's gonna sound like they're booing you, but they're just saying Bruce." And then Tom went, "What's the difference? They're saying they don't want me.
Right.
Actually, Bruce is worse than boo.
Right.
Boo is just a general.
Right. I hate you.
We specifically want something other than you, and we're naming it."
That should be like printed on every, like the door over the opening act, wherever the opening act's supposed to sit. That should be. They don't want you. They don't want you.
They do. They openly do not want to hear you.
They do not want to hear you.
Yeah.
It's hard to be the opening act,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all right. If you're a stand-up comic, you're used to people not wanting to see you, so it's okay.
I'm used. Yeah, but I remember those days when, oh boy, you would like. especially in the 80s when I came up, the MC was just, it was already understood by the audience that this is the sacrifice spot and you can just attack them and stuff. So when I go on the road, I try to bring people that I genuinely like I like having them open for me, and I try to give them some kind of opening or birth on the road. One thing I'm going to do this year, I just did it. I've been doing it at the Largo, and I should have done it on these shows. I just did it in Florida with this really funny comedian named Lisa Carrero. And when I go to the Largo, I walk out cold, talk to the audience for a little bit, and then I bring up the person because the people that I'm bringing up, it's not. I'm not one of those comedians. It's like, just find me a local act we can just get cheap.
Right.
Like I want the whole show to be amazing.
Right.
And
so
so
people are in there who are your fans, and you've already blessed this person. They're not going to boo that person.
Right. Well, they don't boo them anyway. But I just want the whole show to feel special, and I'm realizing that. And there's people that I have open for me, Lisa Carrero and this guy Orlando Leyba, that like I genuinely think are amazing writers and comedians. So I'm like, I would like I want them just to go, there was some opener, and then Pat, like I want them to think like the whole show was amazing.
Yeah.
And they're like, I got to see this person that, listen, the person that opened for him, that person's going to be huge, and I'll be able to go, I just saw him do like 10 minutes.
But Largo's a very welcoming house. I mean, that's easy.
Well, Largo's different. I mean, that's, even if I didn't go out cold, I'm talking about when I'm on the road. That's a thing I want to start doing with my openers, is just go out and go, hey, and talk to people.
You were a writer before you started doing stand-up, right?
Yeah, I was trying to be a writer.
Okay.
In my mind, I was going to be a novelist. I wanted to be Stephen King. I wanted to be all these writers I was reading and write short stories. And then there was that, I'm sure you had a similar thing before you became a writer, where there's the summer where you first realize, oh, I better figure out what I'm going to do. Like, college is going to be over very quickly. I better figure something out. Right. And I started doing a lot of different jobs. I was studying to be a paralegal, and I was studying to, like, all this stuff. And then I started doing open mics in D.C. this summer of '88, and it just clicked. And I wasn't doing well. I was having horrible sets, but the world, the hours, I was suddenly like, oh, I work better on these hours. Right. And the people I was hanging out with were like, oh, I want to hang with these people. The tribe. The tribe. And also what I realized was I'm upstream of everything that's being created now. I'm at the source. I'm not in the office and people are sharing a joke they heard on SNL or on someone's special they saw. I'm watching where they're getting created. Right. And that's where I wanted to be. Yeah.
I started out doing stand-up. Or I actually started doing acting, and then went to stand up, and then went to the Groundlings, and then at some point, not getting hired to do any of that stuff, started writing.
Anyone watching this knows you from the Soaring over California video.
My
very
acting,
famous.
My acting, I play 500 times a day at Anaheim,
and you nail it that moment when you have to take your hat off and stow it. It is. You feel it. You don't want to take that hat off.
Ben Kingsley says acting is not acting on camera. It's just action.
Okay.
But I maybe poured a little bit of acting on.
I think you poured a little bit of acting.
I felt sad in the moment.
Where and when were you doing stand-up?
When I was started 16 years old, as soon as I could drive, and I was doing it at the Improv here and the Comedy Store, like 3 in the morning. But it's interesting. Like, you start as a writer, and when you do your stand-up, I wanted to know this because I might be starting to try and do a stand-up one more time just to see if I could do it again. Do you?
This just turned into like one of those heist movies. I got one more shot.
Well, this whole show,
I got one more
Don't Be Alone,
guy.
Jake Hogan, is about me and my problems.
Oh, really?
You're here to help me solve my problems.
You took on the tone of like, I got one more score on me, man.
Yeah,
I know it.
Listen. It wasn't a pleasant. I got laughs, but I had no persona.
I did a show with you one time at Uncabin. You destroyed. You talked about doing artificial insemination, and I'm saying this line out of context, but it was one of the funniest lines where you're like, and then followed the most awkward set of handshakes in human history.
This is true.
And it led up to this moment where it was a laugh and also a gasp.
Yes,
it was fantastic.
Right. No, that was all writing. That was 100% writing, and it was a pre-written. It wasn't. I feel it's a different thing. Right. So I want to try that thing. But do you go out with ideas and then try them out on stage and then hone them once you've done it on stage, or do you hone them at home and then?
I wish I could sit and write, but I just write down ideas and I go on stage and I form them like over and over and over again, getting it. And I always felt like, why can't I just sit and write? But then a lot of musicians that I know are like, dude, half the songs I write, I'm at the piano, nope, like for hours until we grind it out, till we figure it out. So I'm not sitting with I'm not like Mozart, right? And then 4/8, and then the bass comes. No, I'm just like, you gotta.
But who's recording or who's memorizing what you're saying on stage?
My system is if it sticks in my brain, it was worth remembering, and if it doesn't, that's my brain going, don't worry about it. It wasn't worth it. Like if it's a phrase that really lands with me, and I can remember it without having to write it down, then it's there.
Right.
And that's kind of always been my editor, although.
The older you get, that might be so good.
Yeah, I know. Well, now that I'm getting older, it must like I feel like I've gone as far as I can with this technique of writing. Like I'm starting to see in this new hour I'm working on, like, oh, that's a subject I've actually kind of covered, or that's a phrase I've used before. So maybe I need to. Apparently, when Benny Goodman was at the height of his career, he had his calluses removed surgically and wrapped his fingers so they would heal fresh, so he could learn.
Have to relearn the instrument.
Relearn it so you could learn and write different songs. So I'm thinking maybe I need to think of a different way to write stuff. So maybe I'll come out with different stuff or go into different areas. Like I've explored this much. I'm very conscious of if I've used a phrase before or I've used a certain thing. There's certain things that pop up and I don't want to keep using
That's
them.
how I am about lovemaking. Every time I have to do it differently.
So you're saying you've done missionary once?
Yeah.
You've had a woman on top once?
Right, exactly.
So you have a huge chart.
I have new ways, always new ways to do it, new positions, new ways. So my question, the thing that brought you here, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because the problem I have, and I think you are the perfect person to ask, is you once did a bit about Nickelback and about how when you were a certain age, you just snotty, like these bands are good and these bands are bad.
And let me tell you why.
Exactly. And a very smart idea was like, what did Nickelback ever do to anybody except try to make music and try to play something? Like, and it's a very smart idea. I've heard other people. Another comedian do the same thing about Guy Fieri, that was Shane
Moss, Shane Torres. That bit, I even cited that bit in an interview of because the standard is Guy Fieri sucks and Anthony Bourdain's amazing, and he made a joke about Guy Fieri's actually amazing, and in a way Anthony Bourdain sucks, even though he loves Anthony Bourdain. But look, think of it this way, and it was so fucking brilliant,
so smart, and it's true. Like Guy Fieri. Gives money to charity. Guy Fieri has officiated gay weddings. Like Guy Fieri's done amazing things, but everybody shits on him. And then Anthony Bourdain, who's snotty, God rest his soul, was a difficult, snotty person. He's the hero. So cool is this thing that maybe is not worth fighting for. But
go ahead.
There's something in my soul that says I still want to be cool.
Well, but cool is the enemy of comedy, and cool has no shelf life. Kindness and humility and intelligence are what have shelf life. And I can say this because a lot of the times that I've tried to be cool, it has backfired on me. And the times when I'm just
such as,
oh God, just trying to be
when you dress like Prince for
trying to be.
I remember that
trying to be snarky and owning someone, especially on social media. A lot of that comes back to you trying to be super dark and edgy. People can take that out of context, and you're just like, oh God, that's right. I wanted to shock my parents at Thanksgiving when I came home from college. There's no substance to it, but the stuff
Were
when
your parents very shockable, by the way?
My mom was very shockable. My dad was he was in Vietnam for 3 years, but he had this weird thing where you could see that moment where he's like, oh, like you could see in his head going, oh, he's rebelling. I'm supposed to be angry about this. Okay. Like, because in his mind, he's just like, I was killing people.
Right.
I don't, well, you have an earring. I'm supposed to be shocked. I don't care, But then he would also realize, oh no, we're supposed to go. You're not leaving the house with. But you could tell he just wasn't into it.
Right.
He doesn't care.
Yeah,
He's
no,
just like, you're being an
I'm
idiot.
like that. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I'm a dad like that too. It's like I'm very hard to shock, and I'm actually always encouraging rebellion.
And what you realize is, no, they want something to push against a little bit. I'm that way with my daughter too. With her music, I'm very, unfortunately, because I'm an older dad, she got me post Nickelback, where I'm just like, if you like something, listen to it.
Right.
So a lot of her music that I know other parents are like, why are you listening to this crap? I'm like, oh, do you like this? Good. And then I'll go, you know what, this actually, if you like this, you might like this.
Right.
And then I'll link it back, but I'm never like, that sucks, listen to this.
Right.
I'm more like, oh, like we were listening to this band that I love, that I turned her on to, called Bleached. And there's a great song called Can You Deal? And there's a line like, I listen to Sabbath with all my friends. Yeah, it's real. And she's like, what's Sabbath? I'm like, what's Sabbath? And then I played her like Paranoid and War, and she's into like Sabbath. And
wow.
So, yeah. So she has a very eclectic musical taste.
That's good. Now I have the musical taste consistently of a 14-year-old girl anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So Sabrina Carpenter would be on my playlist right now.
Hey man, Chappell Rowan and Taylor Swift are good songwriters.
They are.
I'm sorry that it's the most popular stuff on the planet and it's not cool to like it, but give it 10 years, those lyrics are amazing.
I agree.
Some of the lyrics on Folklore and Red are like, damn, this is dark as
She's
hell.
good.
She's
Smart. She's talented and being handsomely rewarded for it, and great.
By the way, who would you want to see as the biggest artist in the world? Her who's fucking talented, or because we've lived through times where the biggest artists in the world were horrible,
right?
And we had to kind of go, good for them.
But still that bleeds through. There are people who I think probably aren't all that talented who get to do stuff, and that's fine.
That's fine.
I don't care.
I don't care either.
It's a lottery, man. So it's all right.
Is.
You win the lottery for a little while.
But like, these past few years, it seems like the really good people have gotten through and been very successful.
It's so hard to get through now.
Yeah,
so I think you have to be good at something, some part of it, either the marketing of it or the singing of it or the sound of it.
But there is also that thing, I think, with Chappell Rowan that I think I really hope a lot of kids see this. Talent will out. Talent will get you through. Because she got signed, it failed.
Right.
She kept at it, kept working hard, and the songs themselves were so good that eventually people were like, these are great.
But she had to rebrand herself, and that was interesting.
She did?
Yes, because her real name is something like Amy.
But I thought
Barrington.
she always started as Chappell Rowan.
No, she had a record contract as her regular name, and then she left. There's a whole song on the new album called California, leaving and all that. And she left California to go back home and figure out who she was. And she rebranded herself and started dressing, in the Chappell Rowan costume and changed her name to Chappell Rowan and became this other person.
But none of that would have mattered if her songwriting wasn't amazing.
Of course.
Like,
but
it's it's the songwriting that got her through. Because you can dress something up like crazy, but if it's not good, people are like,
it helps to be both. In other words, the rebranding, the remarketing of herself really got her attention, so that people were able to listen to her music. Because otherwise, people can't hear your music. People can't hear your stand-up comedy. People can't hear. It's hard to break through.
Well, that's what I'm I'm sorry. This is about your problems, not mine. But maybe this will.
This is still my problem.
There is so much, a lot of this business is create, promote, repeat. But the create part is just when you're alone creating, but now you have to promote all the time. Promotion is an everyday thing for the most part.
Yeah.
And to me, promotion is so anti-creative. I'm trying to find a way I haven't found that yet, but it's really eating into the create part, and it's starting to, I think, affect the create part, and so that feels really exhausting right now.
It is exhausting.
This new world where I'm like, I don't want to constantly be living my life on Instagram and TikTok to get people to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is
it's
abhorrent. It's exhausting. By the way, remember to write into DBAWJK@gmail.com and subscribe to the podcast. No, yeah, it's my son is a singer-songwriter, and he's really, really good. Mm-hmm. And the thing he wants to never do is promote himself.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, but how then shall people hear your music?
Yeah.
How is it going to work that way?
Yeah.
And he knows, you got to do it.
You got to play the game.
And he also knows it is sappy. sapping some deep part of his soul. And it goes back a little bit to my original question is what's cool? It's not cool to be sweaty promoting yourself. That's very uncool.
It's not cool to be needy.
And unfortunately, that's kind of what's being asked of us.
Yeah.
To becoming this needy, sweaty, please come, please watch, please,
I love I'm a hermit, I'm creating something, and then I unleash it on the world and I go away for a while. I love that rhythm. And that rhythm's been taken away from us. Because I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, I do believe that there's a mass mind of, there's people that they want to shape the world to their liking. And there's a lot of untalented people that I think are resentful of creatives, and they want all of us to be just doing promotion and hyping and hustling.
Right.
Because that's what they're comfortable doing. And so they've created this world where they're like, oh, good, now everyone's doing what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe I can't imagine people wanting more hustling and hyping in their ears. But
some people, some people, that's all they're comfortable doing. With my fans, if my fans are like me, if they're my peers, they don't want to be bothered with hype all the time. So part of my guarantee is I'm not going to spam you with a million updates. I'm just like, here's the tour, come and see me, and then go about your own life. Like, go do your own thing. Right. I don't want you have to constantly, these people.
You say that, but I still bought the Patton Oswalt emergency flashlight.
There is synergy, and it's a real thing. No, I don't want to be a guy that's like, I don't ever want to be an alert on someone's phone. Right. That to me that's just so intrusive and horrible.
Right. Do people do that? I don't ever heard of
There's people that, if you subscribe to their, you'll get updates, and I guess you click on something and you get ping, this is happening. I could not imagine doing that to my fans.
But I spend all day unsubscribing to everything all the time.
All I do.
And
it doesn't help. I feel like now I'm getting suspicious. I think if you do unsubscribe, that's your way of telling them, oh, there is a person here, and they'll take the time to click on something, so definitely go after that person.
I was somehow subscribed to an improv troupe in Bethesda, Maryland, called the Precise Improv, has been sending me emails every 3 days. And like, I love improv. I'm down for it. Yeah. I'm not likely to be heading to Bethesda to see it at any time soon. So I tried to politely unsubscribe and say,
yeah, guys,
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm barely polite about it anymore. I'm just like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do, guys. Time's running out. I got to do it.
So I feel like you've maintained a certain level of coolness, even though
I've never felt cool.
Dad, even though but there's you run in hip circles and you're at Largo's hip.
I'm friends with cool people, but I'm not the cool person and I've never, again, my comedy is not from the point of view of someone who's cool and who's on it. My comedy is from the point of view of someone that is, I'm a big fan of Tom Papa because he's one of the few comedians, and also Maria Bamford. Oh, they are very, very willing to just say, I'm just overwhelmed by this thing. Right. Like he'll do bits and she'll do bits too, but they'll bring up a subject and then the laughs come from them not being able to make sense of it, to grasp it, and even have a comment on it. But that's so real. Yeah. And they really capture how a lot of us feel right now. We're like, I guess this is just not for me. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, but I mean
real.
But your comedy, I would say your comedy is in this envelope, in this basket, and perception of you may be in this basket. In other words, Bruce Springsteen is not a working class hero.
No.
Okay? But his art describes that.
Yes,
a little
exactly,
bit. And so, but I mean, you're still like a sci-fi comic book guy.
Yeah.
You're still, like rock and roll. Somebody asked me, one of the questions somebody wanted me to ask you, what's your favorite Pixies album?
Okay. I mean, I know that, people want to say Surfer Rosa or Come On Pilgrim, but Doolittle is one of those perfect albums, and it's one of my writing albums that I can put on in the background and just write to it, and it actually doesn't distract me. It actually, I think it feeds my creativity. It's so deep and good.
The person who asked this question predicted you'd say Doolittle.
Doolittle.
But the Pixies are a perfect example of a band, a great band, but a band that isn't the Beatles. It's not so famous, but they come with a certain amount of cool. If you like the Pixies, you're on the side of cool.
Yeah, you get it.
Right, you
get it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so there's still like the anti-Nickelback, thing. It's not, this guy's not Jimmy Buffett. It's something else.
Right.
Now, I like Jimmy Buffett. That's just fine. But I'm just saying, like, there's still parts of us that are still like clinging on to this 20-year-old version of us.
Yeah.
That say like, this is what's good and this is what's bad. This is Wes Anderson's cool up until a certain point, and then he's not cool anymore. Like, we decide when he's gone over the edge, and all that kind of stuff. It's still happening. It's still happening now.
Right. I mean, we also have, there was a all this 90s nostalgia, alt rock nostalgia, early Gen X nostalgia. All that is people that remember being in their 20s, and we're not in our 20s anymore. Right. And it's we can't if we're sitting on the ground, it takes us longer to stand up.
Right.
And that's a scary thing. And so, of course, you're going to go, the last time music was good, let me guess, when you were 22.
Exactly true.
That's another thing that I keep wondering about is when we're going through another version of when MTV came along, there were a lot of bands that just like, I'm not shooting a movie of me lip syncing what the hell is this? Right. I play stadiums. You're like, there's a new thing now, and if you want to keep your audience, this is the thing. Well, I'm not doing that. And so you saw, or they tried to do it, and you realize they didn't look good on camera anymore. And Duran and Madonna and Prince, who were built for that, came along, and who is willing to. Now, there were older audiences that were absolutely able to embrace a new medium. Tom Petty is a great example. It was like, let's do something really cool with this. Peter Gabriel. But there were other people that just couldn't. They're like, well, you can just film me just lip syncing to this, but I'm not doing. You know what I mean?
It's a different talent and creative vein. So you're asking people who have done one thing forever to kind of do something else, or at least trust somebody else to do it. And
it's very hard. A little worrisome. So but that's happening now with like, I'm working with a social media company, and they're really good, but they're like cutting up my old bits to put shorter versions on. But a lot of times they don't know how to cut comedy, and they'll cut it. So I'm like, you literally cut out all the, like, there's a joke at the end. I'm like, no, the way this structured is I have like 8 jokes along the way. And the punchline is the least important part. And I'm like, I'm having to teach them how to watch comedy.
That must be fun.
Look, I'm not, they're really.
The funnest thing in the world is explaining to somebody else why this thing that you wrote was funny.
Well, or where the funny is, because they are used to a certain rhythm.
And they're staring at you saying,
but also,
that's funny. That's funny to you?
But also, in a way, they're not wrong, because they're like, but the way, especially the younger generation is watching things, it's one setup, one punchline, and they swipe to the next thing. Ugh. So watching 2 minutes is too long.
Right.
Like a lot of these things are like, it's too long. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's like a Coppola film.
Yeah,
for
that's
them.
Forever.
Like, no, it's too long.
Yeah.
You got boom, boom, you're out. And that's it. That's all they want to watch. Right. And when you realize, I don't really that's not how I do my comedy. Right. So how do I, and I don't want to restructure how I write and do comedy just to fit this medium.
But you don't have to do that for your act, but you might have to do something different sometimes
for clips and stuff. Oh, God. I know, and that's
which is why everybody's doing like crowd work for their clips, because they don't. It's not their they're not giving up their act.
I know.
And B, it's like, okay, it's free. It's just a moment. It's a thing.
And again, here's what also sucks is there are some people that are genuinely brilliant at crowd work. Crowd work is another art. Unfortunately, the majority of the clips that are out there right now are so bad, and it's a form they don't understand what crowd work is. You talk to someone, you get a nugget from their life, and like in an ASCAT monologue, you build on that to a bigger thing.
Right.
But they think it's like roasting.
Right.
And they don't, and so and now audiences, especially a lot of these younger comedians audiences, they're coming out expecting to just start talking.
Yeah.
And the when they go into bits, they're like, the hell are you doing? Let's go. That we want to. And so I think there's a lot of potentially great comedians that might be prematurely pigeonholing themselves before they get a chance to develop.
Are you finding audiences talking more to you?
Not to me, because I don't push that. I mean, I do a lot of crowd work in my show, but I don't promote that. And I do enough I do like a half hour, 45 minutes, so they know, okay, this guy, they can trust me, and then I will talk to them.
Right.
But the talking is not like, what's your fucking deal? I'm just like, hey, so you live here, and and then I start trying to build something off of that. But a lot of people, I've said this a lot about young comedians. It's so great that they have the technology. They don't have to worry about the gatekeepers the way we did.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming up, you get a clean 5, you go on the Tonight Show, he calls you over to the couch, you get your sitcom, you've made it. And that's the only way to do it. And that was it. That was the only gateway. There was no other gateway. And now there's a million gateways. But because it's so easy to film yourself that a lot of comedians are denying themselves that time in the wilderness that I think people need, where no one knows who you are and you can figure out who you are.
Right. Well, that is that time to build who you are is essential to
crucial
to becoming somebody great. But it is also, I think, if somebody had offered you the opportunity to do it faster when you were younger, you would have taken it in a heartbeat.
Absolutely, and it would have been wrong. In other words, there was no one there. Because, again, when I was coming up, they're like, get on TV. There was no one going, just trust me, take your time with this. And, you've got this. Actually, this is longer than you think. And if you want it's very easy. I'm paraphrasing Harlan Ellison, but it's very easy to become a comedian. It's really hard to stay a comedian.
Right.
Anyone can become a comedian. It's hard to sustain.
Have you seen a lot of peers retire? Going by the wayside?
I've seen a lot of people that it's not that they've retired, they were either in comedy to get out of comedy. Mm-hmm. The comedy was a vehicle to get to a sitcom, to a movie career, or they pigeonholed themselves so much and created a very fervent but limited crowd that when they began to evolve, the crowd wouldn't follow them. And then they kind of went in to do something else. Again, very hard to stay a comedian.
Yeah, it's very hard to stay anything. The world changes a lot.
It changes a lot. I mean, look, I was doing bigger theaters. I still do theaters, but now I'm going into clubs because some areas I don't sell as much. Mm-hmm. And it always, there is no such thing. And I think there's a lot of people that they'll do a stadium or they'll do Madison Square Garden and they go, and it's at this level. It's like, no, it goes up and down wildly. And if you keep if you think it will sustain at that level, you'll drive yourself crazy. Let yourself have the big venues, and then you're in smaller venues for a while, and then you're back in big venues, and then you're back in smaller venues. It all matters. All of that matters. Even the times when you're in the small rooms, that matters.
Yeah. I have, as a writer, I have less of that. I just it's big shows, little shows, big paychecks, little paychecks. Those are the things you can choose from and just figure out.
But it's not we're not working in a bank.
Right.
It is not a steady pay increase. You signed up for this.
Oh, for sure.
And you've got to accept that. And the people that can't accept that I think that's what, and again, they prematurely end a career that could have been amazing. They just couldn't, in their mind, there was some kind of humiliation I remember there was this interview with Dane Cook, and Dane had just done Madison Square Garden.
Right.
Sold it 3 nights in a row. Just annihilated. Great for him. And then it was a year later, and he was doing, I think, Caesar's Palace, and he had sold out 4 nights at Caesar's Palace. Caesar's Palace is still huge.
Right.
It's not Madison Square Garden because nothing's Madison Square Garden. And the article they were writing in the interview, they were just like, wow, I guess things are kind of gone. And I'm like, what are they talking? They're applying this model to him that doesn't exist. But I think a lot of comedians read that and thought, okay, I gotta sustain, and it hurt a lot of creative people.
I guess
you know what I mean?
I do, but I also think that arena comedy is the weirdest thing I've ever.
Yeah. Look, some people excel at it. I did an arena once, and I was up in Seattle, and Dave Chappelle called and said, "Hey, I'm doing the arena." I was doing the Moore Theater. They go, "Come on over and do a guest set." And I went up, and he killed, but I did okay, but it was not what I like doing because you're just
there's no connection.
Screaming,
right?
And the whole time there's people walking around and they're buying drinks and buying merch, and I'm just like, for some people this works great. If you watch Nate Bargatze, people like that, they have found a way to make it amazing, but. For me, and I think a lot of comedians are like, this, I can't connect this way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just go find the space you're comfortable in.
I guess so. I mean, it's fascinating to watch Nate do an arena.
But he makes it feel cozy and natural.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't do that. And again, that's, know what you can do and what you can't. I've seen Elvis Costello at like stadiums, and it didn't feel right. And then I saw him at the Wiltern, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I don't understand why people that are like, when am I going to get to a fucking stadium? You do realize that headlining comedy clubs and small theaters is still an insane living that 90% of people in this business don't get to do. Like, you've made it.
Right.
You made it. Chill out.
Yeah, but it's also hard living. Traveling is hard. The waiting around is hard. The sort of, little humiliations along the way where your room, nobody was there to pick you up. The room's not ready. All that other stuff is, that's all part of it too. So it's not this glorious road.
Yeah, but those are humiliations in service to a creative thing that you want to do. Yeah. You would suffer those same humiliations doing someone else's job that you didn't care about. So I'm like, I'll take the humiliations for the thing that I really, really want to do, rather than the same humiliations and I'm just working at some office and I'm making someone else money.
All right, so now this is listener mail.
Now it's time for listener mail.
Dear Jay and guest.
Oh.
You're the guest.
Okay.
If you read a great, moving, engaging story and discovered it was written by AI, would that change your experience? Would knowing the author of a story had an unusual background change the value of the story? Should we be more open to AI as a tool, since it seems like it's what's coming? Thanks, Esteban.
Look, there are certain writers who have written some genuinely moving, life-changing things for me who weren't necessarily the best people on the planet. I think unfortunately, any fans of Alice Munro, this was a very rough year. Mm-hmm. Here's what I would say to that, because a writer friend of mine said this about AI, and I actually believe this. AI didn't create itself. We created AI. It is our baby, and we are raising it. If AI is doing racist stuff or sexist stuff or, shitty stuff, it's learning from us. Mm-hmm. We're not feeding it Shakespeare and Molière and, good stuff. So if a truly moving story was written by AI, yes, I would have liked for a human to write it. But that AI did draw the stuff that's moving from other stuff that does exist, that was created by humans. And it means that maybe if a beautiful, touching human story by AI exists, that does indicate that maybe in the future, AI will develop a sense of empathy, that it won't wipe us off the face of the earth and might want to try to improve us.
Right.
And hopefully, if somebody reads that story and knows how AI works, in other words, if they don't have the attitude of like, oh, now with AI we can replace authors, if they actually understand the AI that is working is because it is pulling from the sources, maybe that will make them go, maybe I should go search out these other authors and figure out where there's, it'll make me go search for that. I don't think that they will.
Right. I don't think they will.
And it's very telling that a lot of the people that are really pushing AI and really love AI are the most uncreative sociopaths on the planet, because they resent creative people, and they've wanted their whole life to go to a writer, to a musician. Right. You're not special. Anyone can do this.
I have great ideas.
Yeah.
You just write it up.
Yeah. Someone said this quote, and I should have written this down. I don't know who said this quote. I didn't say this, but they're like, I want AI to do my laundry and my bills so I have time to paint and write. I don't want my AI to write and paint for me so I have time to do my laundry and pay bills.
But if AI wound up making great paintings, somehow, I guess I'd look at them. If I didn't know,
if you didn't know,
I instinctively don't want to watch or read anything I know that a machine is writing. But
no, me neither.
But maybe
I'm trying to find
maybe I'm a Luddite. Maybe maybe that's what's coming, and I should learn to embrace the good versions and not the bad.
I'm trying to find the hopeful version out there.
Yeah.
That the only hopeful silver lining is, if that beautiful story existed, it's because we existed.
Right.
It didn't happen out of, an AI left alone would not write a beautiful story.
Right.
It would have to pull from us.
Right.
We are the source again.
Right.
And I think there will always be, there's people watching shit on their phones.
Right.
But then when a truly great movie comes out, people will pack a theater to go see it because it's still an experience. And yeah, there's that Soylent thing you can just drink, meal replacement stuff. But a great restaurant, people will still go because, God damn it, I want some good fucking food.
Yeah, we're humans. We want a human experience.
Yeah, and we'll always want that.
Yeah.
When there was some movie that John Ford was shooting, and they got to the location in Monument Valley, and this massive dust storm blew up, and they're like, well, we can't shoot anything. And he goes, and John Ford said, we can shoot the most fascinating thing on the planet, a human face.
Right.
You can shoot a human face.
Right.
And watching these Sergio Leone movies with my wife, she was like, God, he loves faces.
Right.
Ugly, beautiful, he loves them. He realizes how gorgeous it is and how we're enraptured by a face.
Right.
So we will always want a human face.
I think I agree with you. I hope AI turns out to be our friend and good things. It will encourage more humanity.
It will turn out to be our friend if we make it our friend. We need to be responsible for this thing. We birthed the kid. We got to raise it. We can't just go, well, let it. We're doing the same thing. If you had a kid and go, just play on your phone, just watch TV, then they're gonna go alt-right and become a fucking Proud Boy asshole. But if you go, hey, let me hang out with you, let's go do things together, let's go, then you'll raise a good person. We created this thing. We wanted it.
I didn't.
But whoever did. We got to raise it.
Right. No, you got to participate in it and use it as a tool.
And put good things out there.
Use it as a tool. Right now, it's.
But maybe your job in raising it is to not. You don't need to know, but put good things out that it can learn from.
Yeah, it's already stolen, sucked up a bunch of Simpsons scripts.
I'm sure it has.
It's already done.
But at least it sucked up Simpson scripts.
Yeah. All right. Now it's time for a moment of joy.
Oh.
A moment of joy. There's a theme that plays. A moment of joy.
A moment of joy.
This is where I ask my guest, what's something that gives you joy? And I eliminate from the possibility your spouse and your child. That's off the table.
Yeah.
What's something else that gives you joy that maybe somebody listening or watching can say, maybe I should try that sometime? To give me a moment of joy.
I don't think people realize how amazing it is to hold a physical book and read it, but read it either in a library or a Starbucks or someplace where you can read a few pages, get into these characters' thoughts, get into this story or this world, and then you take this break. But all you do is look up and look at other people, look at their faces, and start imagining what their story is, what got them here, why are they sitting here, why do they look like that, why do they wear that this day. Reading a book will open your mind to observing people, and then people become fascinating.
Yeah.
The world becomes more... Everyone's like, well, reading is just an escape from the world. Reading is a way that... It's almost like when you have a sip of wine before you eat, like it enhances the experience. It gets you buzzed for the world. And if you give yourself, it doesn't need to be all day. Like, block out 2 hours, sit and just read 10 pages. Read like 3 pages, then stop. You've looked at these characters. You got to see inside their heads because of the way the writer's writing. And then just stop, look at the people around you, think for a second. You won't believe how much deeper it is how you're looking at them now. You're not just looking at objects, you're looking at actual people. And you'll look at objects in different ways. Who built this chair? Where did it come from? Who thought of this design? Go back into the book for a bit. Go back. Just give yourself a 2-hour chunk. It'll be the best movie you ever watch. I guarantee it.
Ideas and images inspire other ideas and other images. So
I think we are now being taught that, like, you get your ideas and your entertainment from this, and you wait for someone to upload something for you. You have no idea what you can upload for yourself.
Right. It's interesting. I write in cafes for that very reason.
Yeah.
I write things, and I'll write a scene and then certain pages, and I'll look up and see faces and distract myself for a little bit, and then be able to go back because I need that distraction.
You block out 2 hours.
Yeah.
Any time of day. Can be in the evening, can be in the morning. Just give yourself 2 hours and read a book that way. 3 or 4 pages, then look at people.
2 hours
back into the book.
2 hours will cut into my masturbation time. So that's difficult because
hour and a half.
Every hour and a half.
Hang on.
So I'll
Can
figure it out.
I do a different thing?
Sure.
Masturbation.
Yeah, that's great.
Masturbation.
Moment of joy.
Forget that book shit. That's bullshit. Masturbating is amazing. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's good.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Okay, guys. So wasn't that amazing? I thought it was amazing. I'm still jazzed from it. It's fantastic. So the conversation's so good that it went much longer than we thought. And so that was just part one. We're going to listen to part two of this conversation next week. So if you like that, more to come. And if you didn't like that, part two is so much better than part one. Part one sucked. Part two is really what you got to listen to. Anyway, next week, part two of Patton Oswalt. See ya.
Don't be alone.